seen a lot of bankers, and I've seen a lot of cops. I've seen a lot of lawyers pull out all of the stops. I've seen a lot of children with their parents in their hands. I felt a lot of women who refuse to understand. And I don't think I understand why we're making such a fuss. And I don't think I understand what's come of all of us. And I don't think I understand why we take the world for granted. I just want to get right back to Guitar Players Planet. You see it in the papers, you read it every day. The riots and the fires going on in South LA. The muggers and the government, they're all wanting the same thing. They take you for your money, whatever spring. And I don't think I understand why we're making such a fuss. And I don't think I understand what's come of all of us. And I don't think I understand why we take this world for granted. I just want to get right back to Guitar Players Planet. Take me.
We gotta expand a little bit.
And I don't think I understand what's come of all of us. And I don't think I understand what we take this world for granted. I just want to get right back to Guitar Players Planet. Guitar Players Planet. Guitar Players Planet.
Yeah.
Guitar Players Planet. Guitar Players Planet. Guitar Players Planet.
We're gonna make a little love down by the water. Maybe out the sun, maybe out the daughter when the music man calls. That's when I gotta play.
Well,
things we
never
never
stop
can.
around the world, that's for sure.
I'm burning with hate.
That was the greatest night in television. That was the greatest night in
television. As a boy, I had a dream. Carry it with me today.
You know what? because we're talking about it. What?
When the world stops spinning around, I'll be rocking. When the walls come tumbling down, I'll be there.
Yeah, it was a good movie.
When the world stops spinning around, I'll be rocking. When the world stops spinning around, I'll be rocking. When the world comes tumbling down, I'll be there. Hey, 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 hey. When the world stops spinning around, I'll be rocking. When the world stops spinning around, I'll be rocking. Sunny skies, the smell of palm tree air. Looking back, I could never feel fair. The way the music has touched my soul, the way that the South holds its control. But I've got a new way to choose. I'm gonna start running back to the lands of the new. Oh, na 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 na. Seems to me that I've lost my friend. Got the sunset off the highway again. Then I get lost on a long summer day. I must go back before it's too late. You're afraid you're feeling alone. Time and space can never unfold. The holidays can ring in your fear. The ghostly embrace can only mean tears. And I've got a new way to choose. I'm gonna start running back for lands of blue. Oh, na 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 na. Sitting at the lake, I'm feeling confused, but I had my desire, so I played this blues. But I'm afraid, what might be true, that I might never come back again. Seems to me that I've lost my friend. Got the sunset off the highway again. Then I've been lost for one long summer day. I must be back before it's too late. Someone make my day. New revelation fills my soul. Oh, I can waste away. You distracting my attention. You're all that's on my mind. You not looking for perfection, but you're too hard to find. Now the first night is coming, and I know what to do. You know that nothing feels sweeter than someone I need to taste your life again. I need a rendezvous. New revelation just feel my soul. Beginning and ends with you. Distracting my attention. You're all that's on my mind. You not looking for perfection, but you're too hard to find. Now the first night is coming, and I know what to do, yeah. You know that nothing feels sweeter than someone else, yeah. Now the first night is coming, and I know what to do, yeah. She knows that nothing feels sweeter than some.
And of course, it went to the 4 up instead of the 5 because and we kicked Pete out by accident. So then we get the 5
Oh,
up in there.
sure, it was by accident.
And then
Sure.
there we go.
Uh-huh.
Now Pete's
There
there.
he
There
is.
we go.
And Bob Denny is Clyde.
And
And Bob Denny is Eric. We had some changes. We had some last minute changes on the titles. So I apologize about
sorry
that.
about my mic being in the picture, but if I don't get close to it, it doesn't work. Doesn't work.
No,
that well.
that's
Sorry
that's
about
quite okay.
Fine. Those are good.
That's totally fine.
Not a problem.
that. Okay. All right.
So yeah, so tonight, welcome everybody. It is another what's today? Wednesday? Today's Wednesday.
Today's
Today's
Wednesday
Wednesday.
again.
Oh my
Hey.
goodness. So another Wednesday
Happens
night.
once every week.
I know we got a lot of stuff going on tonight. We got in the middle. We
Lord.
got Bob Denny, who's going to give us a nice rundown on ALPACA, which I'm looking real forward to. And we have a lot of other stuff. We got a Woodland Hills giveaway that we're going to be giving away tonight. That $50 gift certificate to them. So stick around to the end of the show, definitely to take a look at that. Find out who wins there. And I got to throw out an apology out to Dang Solo, who won our last Camera Concepts gift certificate. So that'll be in your email tomorrow. You're good to go. I got it all sorted, and you'll have that tomorrow. So Dan K Solo, you're good. So just some homekeeping stuff. We got. Well, why did that happen?
Yeah, it's there.
There we go. You're good.
I see it. The guest list.
Yeah, but that shouldn't be like that, I don't think.
Yeah.
Let's play.
So tonight we have Mr. Denny.
Yeah, so tonight we got Bob Denny with ALPACA. He's going to be coming with us tonight. Next week we have Charles Bracken coming, author of the Deep Sky Imaging Primer, amongst other things. I have like 4 of his books. Awesome author. May 4th we got Richard Wright
from Starstone Software, primarily of Software Bisque. And May 13th, we have Eric Coles, who's an astrophotographer and one of the founding members. I might be talking out of time there, but I believe he's one of the founding members of the Astro Imaging channel on Sunday nights. So that's going to be a lot of fun to do all of that with them. And that being said, we also have our sponsors that we got to thank. Woodland Hills and Night Skies Network. Thank you so much for your donations and everything, the giveaways and all that kind of stuff. And at the main sequence, we got Camera Concepts and Prima Luce Lab. Don't forget to sign up for all these giveaways on the website, www.astroworldweb.com. Don't forget to sign up for them. We got almost 50 people signed up for the Eagle giveaway, and we got about 30 to 40 people for all the rest. So it was interesting to do the giveaway wheel for Woodland Hills tonight because I had about 12 people. So keep on signing up for these giveaways because it's all free. It's not raffles. It's all stuff that's been donated for the membership. So and that we can't forget also at the Red Giant level, and sooner or later we're gonna have the very requested Black Hole level, but we're not up to that yet. But Masters of Pix Insight and IP for AP was very generous as well, and they have donated, I think, 43 Masters of Pix Insights workshops plus 12 yearly subscriptions to IP for AP. So that is just awesome. So thank you to all of our members, and I can't forget all of the member sponsors out there. We have almost 30 member sponsors right now, whether through YouTube or Patreon. So thank you to all the member sponsors out there. I appreciate it. We all appreciate it. And again, it all goes back to you. It all goes back to the membership. And unless if, Scott needs a microphone or something like that. But but that being said, thank you, everybody. We have Bob Denny tonight, and he's going to give us a nice little presentation on ALPACA. And at that point, I think that's my 5 minutes. Yeah, I got this down to like 7 minutes, like every night. It's like 7 minutes. It's nice, but we got Bob here, so I'm gonna hand over. Bob, why don't you tell the people out there what you do, what you're up to, and what this ALPACA thing is all about?
I will do that. First, I have to tell you a little. Well, first of all, thank you very much for inviting me on. That means a lot. I have to confess, I hadn't known about this group, and having spent the last 20 minutes with you all, I'm already very comfortable. So thank you for making me feel welcome and allowing me to come in and talk about what I'm doing, which is, besides, there are two parts of my life. And by the way, I am not an astronomer. That's the big thing. I'm a software engineer and a system designer, and my background is a lot of stuff, programming for most of my life, but also architecture. So I'm not the typical guest you might have, and if I get a little technical, I hope you'll forgive me. I've been trying to promote the idea of an ecosystem for astronomy programs and devices where a program can talk to any device out there without having to write special software for every one of those devices. And that's the big barrier that existed in 2000, was if you wanted to write a piece of software to talk to telescopes, let's say, there were like 20 different telescopes out there. Every one of them were different. Some of them said they spoke the LX200 protocol, but not really. Those of you who remember the old Hayes modem protocol,
Oh, yeah.
that wasn't standard either. So it was a mess. And everybody was writing software, and they were spending their time doing that instead of writing their own app, which is what you see to get your work done. So the idea of leveling the playing field was what I had back in 2000, and it's come true on the Windows platform. Well, in 2018, not just me, but a group of people came up with another way of doing this, but with the same idea and the same structure, only over the network, and that made it possible to be on all the different platforms, Linux, Mac OS, and so forth. It takes time for people to adopt the technology, but anyway, that's been my goal. The other half of my life, and I won't talk about it other than to mention that I have a commercial automation software product with web access, and it's a really high-end, and you would think extremely expensive software package that is mostly used by clubs and universities, government organizations to provide remote access to observatories. If you want to look up the Great Basin Observatory, and I can bring that up later if you're curious, that's a typical type of thing that I do. That's one of the more interesting ones because it went from groundbreaking to first light in 5 weeks. And it was in the Great Basin National Park. It was the first fixed observatory, science observatory, that the National Park Service allowed into a national park. And that serves 4 colleges and a large group of students from those colleges to do science and astroimaging, both art and science, remotely. And there's no public access to that observatory. It's totally remote. Okay, so I thought about this, and I think we have enough time. We're on for how long?
We're on for
An
as long
hour?
as you need.
Okay.
'Cause-
I have just under 10-minute video. It's probably more technical than you want, but it will give you the idea of the motivation for ASCOM and ALPACA, which is just another instance of ASCOM. And hopefully after it's run, then you'll have lots of questions for me, and I guess they'll keep an eye on the
oh yeah.
on the questions, and I'll try to look too. But I want to try to respond to you and help you understand what it all is. And I'll also talk about a little bit about what's going on out there. And there's been some really cool things that have happened recently in that regard. So let me bore you now, hopefully not, with a briefing that, let me just stop this and go to my screen sharing. Let me know if you, let's see, Windows Media Player. This didn't work last time. Let's play. Nope, it doesn't look good. Now I'm going to go back to the entire screen here and try this.
There you go.
How's this? Oops. Does that look full screen to you?
Yep, you're good.
All right. Hopefully we'll get sound.
Yeah.
I set this. Hello, everyone. Thanks for letting me give you this. Did the sound come through?
Sound came through.
Okay, off we go. ALPACA briefing. This will be in 3 parts. First, I'm going to show you a little bit about why ASCOM even came into being. Secondly, I'm going to give you some specifics about ALPACA and why we are making that available to people now. Then at the end of this short video, it'll be open for question and answer. And actually, this is where I enjoy myself and you'll learn the most. So sit tight. The video will be over in just a few minutes and we'll talk more then. By the way, thanks to Matt Dietrich for that wonderful Nightscape time lapse. First thing we're going to go through is really why ASCOM and ALPACA exist in the first place. It won't take long. You guys are all developers, so I'm not going to belabor all of this. But as you know, without a common universal interface, you have to write adapter code for every single type of device out there. So if you were doing this, you'd have your own code to talk to mount A, B, C, and D. In other words, how many of these mount adapters must I write and support? Here's an example. This is Sky Safari 7. We'll go in to connect up a mount the old way and look at this list of mounts. These people had to develop code for every one of these mounts. So prospective app developers look at this and they see it as a big barrier to them getting into the business. But it's worse. Suppose a new mount comes out. Now the app developers are faced with writing code and testing with a new mount. Do they put that mount in their warehouse of all the other mounts that they have so they can test with it in the future? Do they borrow one? How do they get this thing? Once they have the support there, they have to roll out a new version of their app. It's a tough row. From the mount maker's point of view, as soon as you have a new mount, you have a choice. You can either try to emulate somebody else's gobbledygook along the serial line, or you have to go back to the app developers and beg them to support your new mount with your new protocol. All this adds up to problems for both the app and the mount developers. But here's the thing most people forget. When you have pieces of code in the app and pieces in the device, who's responsible for a problem when somebody has a problem? Trying to figure out whether it's the app's code or the mount or whatever device's code is a real problem. So you end up with a situation like this, and eventually you end up with a situation sort of like this. What we're here to do is put everyone on a common universal standard. An app need only write mount code once. A mount maker need only write a driver, and it's automatically compatible with all the apps out there. And when you're trying to solve a problem, where is it, in the app or the driver? By having a universal standard, it makes it easy to find out whether it's in the app or in the driver. Okay, let's switch gears and look at a little bit of layering and architecture. Before I go farther, I want to say that this is being presented in an evolutionary way, starting with the original classic ASCOM and working our way towards the future. By its nature, this stuff starts with Windows-centric things. That does not mean that ALPACA depends on Windows. It does not. This is what we know of as ASCOM has been for the last 20 plus years. Windows apps talk to a Windows driver, and the two communicate with COM. That's what we would call classic ASCOM or ASCOM-COM. And then the driver talks over something like USB or Ethernet, serial, or whatever to the actual device hardware. Now, with the introduction of ALPACA, we have the possibility of an unmodified Windows COM application being able to reach out to an ALPACA device by having these new chooser dynamic drivers. Let me show you what that looks like. When the Windows app decides to display the chooser, it comes up and looks up for ALPACA devices anywhere on the net. If it finds one, there it is. You simply choose that, click OK to have it create the new driver for you. Mind you, this is a COM driver that gives access to the ALPACA device. It makes that permanent on the device. Boom, there it is, ALPACA Telescope Simulator. You'll hear more of that in our next presentation. At this point, an unmodified Windows app that speaks COM-flavored ASCOM can talk to an ALPACA device out on the network with no changes to the Windows app at all. Now let's look at the flip side of this. Let's say we have an application out on Linux or Mac OS or iOS, as you'll see in a minute, that wants to speak to a mount.
I lost your audio. And we've lost the audio there, I think.
Yep.
And let me go back to...
Bob, can you hear us?
We know, boom, we can connect.
Yeah, it just came back.
And that is,
That was weird.
we are. That's now talking to a mount that is being controlled on a Windows system. In this case, it's the simulator that, would you like me to wind this back? I muted my mic, I'm sorry. I'll wind it back a little bit if you want. It's only
Yeah,
maybe a
that's right.
minute
Go
or
back
two.
about,
Yep.
go
Yeah.
back about 40,
Okay.
40 seconds. to a
Please,
minute.
Bob.
Okay, let's try this. Look like from
There you go.
Sky
There you go.
Safari
Right there.
on the Okay. iOS. And we'll I'm have it sorry talk about that. I didn't know it to would mute the everything.
Not a
ASCOM
problem.
COM platform telescope simulator. In Sky Safari, you would just select the settings and go in and add a new preset. And this time it's ALPACA, and we discover. So Sky Safari found the telescope simulator, the COM one on the Windows system, and we've go ahead and save that. Go back to Sky Safari, use that preset, and the next thing we know, boom, we can connect, and that is, there we are. That's now talking to a mount that is being controlled on a Windows system. In this case, it's the simulator that is part of the ASCOM platform. I didn't want to use a specific mount. We don't, we try to keep this neutral as far as vendors are concerned. But again, because the simulator acts exactly the same as any other ASCOM mount, it doesn't really matter. Okay, let's look at one more Windows involved possibility here, and that would be a Windows app that speaks ALPACA natively, and then an ALPACA driver running on the Windows system. This is the same layering as the original COM one that we looked at first, only instead of using COM for the communication, it uses ALPACA. Here we see the same thing with a Linux app running on a Linux machine with a Linux driver, an ALPACA driver, using ALPACA to speak between the app and the driver. This is the same Windows or Linux, and we can do that on Mac. Because ALPACA is cross-platform, it is a universal, truly now, even across operating systems. Now let's look at one more possibility, and that is the app on Linux, Mac, or Windows, which speaks ALPACA, the same app that would be in the last 3 slides, now can speak out over the network to a self-contained device. And that's really where we see the future in the long term. And that is devices that are out there on Ethernet or Wi-Fi, and no more USB, no more private protocol that you saw over USB or Wi-Fi, serial line, blah, blah, whatever that stuff was. That's all in the orange box at the bottom, and how that happens is not for us to worry about. All we need to do is speak to the ALPACA REST internet endpoints out there that have that common interface, and that's all we need to run the device. Okay, wrapping up here, I hope this diagram will help you imagine the possibilities with ASCOM and ALPACA. And we're here today to help you try to understand this and ask questions and clarify the things that I didn't clarify in this video. Okay, thanks a lot for listening to all of this. I'm hoping it'll put things into perspective and that you'll have plenty of questions for me now. So we'll get to that part next.
All right.
Okay, I said cut my screen, so let's see how that works. Ready? It's still not. I stopped sharing, so
We still got
If
the
I don't know
share.
why it's taking so long.
If you click the I guess it's like the monitor icon, maybe green.
Yep.
If you click that away, it should go back.
Right. There you go.
There you go.
There you go.
Oh, I had
There you
to
go.
I had to click it twice.
Oh,
That's
Ah.
interesting.
Okay.
all right.
Okay, well, I'm back. So
Awesome.
I know there was a lot of a lot happened in a very short period of time. If you're not a developer and we're at that point, it's hard to absorb what's going on. But I'm here to answer questions, and I'll try to clarify. I'm looking here. I'll try to clarify a couple things. First of all, ALPACA runs over the network, but the network exists inside of a computer also. So an application can talk to a device with a driver inside the computer, or it can talk over the network to a device that has its own network or Wi-Fi thing. So
Mhm.
there are already focusers from Optech that don't have any wires. They have Wi-Fi in them,
Yep.
and you can talk to that Optech focuser over ALPACA, even from a piece of software on Windows that doesn't know anything about ALPACA. And this is the key. There are gateways between the old classic COM, ASCOM, and ALPACA that exist on Windows. The Linux and Mac OS community have not adopted this yet, with a couple of exceptions. Han Klein, Hello Northern Sky, HN Sky, has added ALPACA to his planetarium program. So, and that's cross-platform. That'll run on the Mac or on Linux, and it will speak directly to a telescope, if there were one, that had a Wi-Fi ALPACA guts in it. And we're hoping that that kind of stuff will come along. We laid the groundwork, and it's up to the user community to help those people making devices understand why having a self-contained or Wi-Fi device is better than having something that speaks, God only knows what over a USB line. It's a slow process, though, because they are not going to spend money unless they see some sort of desire from the customers. And right now, and I'm going to say this, and then I want to throw it open to you guys, because I've just been blabbing on now for another 5 minutes.
That's all right.
And I'm sorry about that.
No, it's good.
There are some things in the video I'm sure that were not clear. And I want you to please hit me with questions, because then I do my best under those conditions. But what concerns me right now is there are some new entrants into the astronomy software community, without naming names, that are trying to create closed environments. If you don't have their stuff and their plugs and their protocol, you don't play.
Yeah.
And there are two big ones right now. Well, one that's been there for a while, and another that is coming online right now, that is like, well, yeah, that's ALPACA, that's common interface, blah. We have the that you want to connect to, because then we get to capture you into our ecosystem.
Yeah,
That model
like,
has
it looks like three people
model has never worked in computing.
People have already outed ZWO, all on the chat.
Yeah. I don't want to say names, because that's not me, but
Right.
I'm old enough now to have been programming for over 50 years, and I've lived through all of the evolutions of religions and architectures and languages and everything. And I have for probably one of the more amazing spectrum of experience throughout my life. And I've seen that same pattern repeated over and over and over and over, of people trying to create an ecosystem and suck people in and then own it. World domination. That never works in computing, because you end up with people who go, that's BS, and blah, blah. Remember, no profanity, right? So, and so they're out there and they're doing it. And as a result, they're not paying attention to their ASCOM interfaces, and they're shabby. And I think, is this on purpose or by an accident, or they just are putting their money somewhere else? That's a big concern of mine. And this has just come up in the last, I'll say, year, and particularly with my customers in the last 6 months. There have been some devices come out that don't work right, that aren't good on ASCOM. And then they're saying, oh, no, you need to use this, this, and this. And it's like, yeah, well, so that's a concern for me, because I think the most important thing, if you're into open source, if you're into that, you should be into universal interfaces in astronomy for the same exact reason.
Yeah,
now I'll shut up.
No problem. We do have a bunch of questions that are coming across.
Good.
Eric's usually good with watching the chat, but I mean, yeah, I saw that too.
Yeah, there's a couple here.
Yeah, so the first one that I saw was John G on YouTube. Have any mount makers agreed to support ALPACA?
No. However, I will say this. Most of the mounts that are out there have drivers, that is the device, the things that allow apps to talk to those mounts without having to know anything about the internals. That's what a driver does. I'll answer your question in a minute.
Yeah.
A driver's job is to allow somebody like SGP or Nina or you name it to talk to the same set of functions. And then over here, the mount has all the specific stuff and how they do what they do and all the blah, blah, whatever. So that driver is a key to allowing the whole world to talk to this device. And that if the mount has a driver that runs on Windows, we've provided a piece of software that will turn that mount into an ALPACA device. Think about that. So that's how I got Sky Safari to talk to a mount on Windows through ASCOM Remote. You start this, it's a small program, and it can start up as a system service, and it will make those mounts, EQ Mod, Plane Wave, Astrophysics, you name it, can all already speak ALPACA and be accessible from Sky Safari, HN Sky, and Cartousiel, nice. Patrick Chevali's planetarium. So we have worked really hard to make the transition
seamless
possible without a big flag day where everybody has to change. What would make us all much happier would be someone to come out with, I'll just say, let's say Brand X, who has a Windows driver right now and a very complex system for putting together PEC and pointing models and all that. And these things are complicated, and they don't want to rewrite them for Linux and Mac. So they've got them all working, and it all works great, and it's running on Windows. So the idea would be for them to put all that into a B-Link little box, or whatever, you name it, plop it on their mount. They own the Windows operating system inside of there, and who cares? It's like opening the hood and seeing, oh, I don't like that carburetor under there. Well, close the hood and step on the gas and love it. So that thing now has an ALPACA interface without them having to write any new software. So that possibility is out there if they wanted to mount a $200 or $180 PC little box like a Raspberry Pi on their mount. Boom, they're done. So we're hoping that'll happen, but it won't happen without customer pressure. Did I answer your question? Was that an adequate answer, or is there more to it? I see someone with their finger on their mouth like this. It's thinking about maybe not.
Normal, that's his normal kind of forte.
Did I not answer your question, or?
So there's another question. I think Charles Bracken is on.
Charles Bracken's on, checking us out. He's getting ready for his. There it is.
Yeah, he's prepping for his interview with us coming up soon. But he's asking, why isn't ASCOM moving in the same direction with Wi-Fi support and etc.?
It is. ASCOM and ALPACA are the same. That's what I was trying to get to with the video. Mm-hmm. The whole point of this, let's look at it from an engineering point of view. And I'm sorry I'm a developer, but when you go into a new project and you're trying to put something out, if it's a new fighter or a new ship or I don't care what you look at is risk, design risk. So if we were to invent a new protocol, that would be risky. But more importantly, the most important part of any system that involves multiple boxes, which would be called a distributed system, such as all the boxes on an airplane or all the modules in an observatory that's running, SGP and plane wave and all that stuff. Those all communicate, and they're all boxes. It's the interfaces. And that's the key to ASCOM is the interfaces. And what I mean by that is it's like a language. How do you make the mount slew? You say slew to coordinates. How do you know when it's finished slewing? You look at something called slewing, and it's either true or false. From a simplistic point of view, slew to interface, and then go do whatever you were going to do, and then come back when you need that scope to be on target. You go look at slewing, and if it's false, you can continue your work. So those are actually two of the verbs in the language of ASCOM, and they're the same for every mount. They're also the same for ALPACA. The only difference is on ASCOM, it goes through Windows, through the Windows operating system, which has a very cool feature which allows computers to talk to each other in their native languages, and supports 22 languages on Windows. It's a language independent thing, but it's not operating system independent. So that was cool for 20 years, but people are, they don't want a Windows what. So we put together a thing that uses the network, but exactly the same nouns and verbs. Exactly. The interfaces are identical. So, and that's what makes it possible for ASCOM Remote to turn a plane wave mount into an ALPACA device, because all the calls are exactly the same. And that same piece of software can turn an astrophysics mount into an ALPACA device, because all the calls are exactly the same. Or an EQ mod device can appear exactly the same. So it's the universal interface that's the key. And I hope that made sense.
So this universal interface, and I'm throwing in a little bit of my Tolkien in here. So this interface, is this a hardware interface? And is this basically like one ring that's going to rule everything?
No, the interface is a set of definitions.
Okay.
It's a set of definitions. It's like a dictionary. You can write any book you want in English, but the dictionary is the words you can use. And if you know how to use them, you can write your book. So it's an abstract interface. It doesn't, it's not tied to anything.
Okay.
It is, as long as you use the same words I can speak to you right now because I speak English. And the nouns and verbs and the sentence structures are mine, but the nouns and verbs are the things that we have in common. And it's the same thing in a distributed system. Nina, for example, can use those nouns and verbs to work its magic with the mount and the dome, and SGP can use those same nouns and verbs to work its magic. And they all are creative results of the creativity of their authors. But when it gets down to manipulating the devices in the observatory, who wants to try to learn the guts of those things and to speak all of that, low-level stuff? I'll put it this way. What does a mount really need to do? And I'm simplifying it somewhat, but I'm going to try to get to the bare metal on this. If I ask it to go to a place in the sky, all it can do is get as close as it possibly can, right? If it were a perfect mount, that's all I'd need to tell it. Go here, I'm done. I don't need to know anything more. Then the other thing I needed to do is to track that object for the rotation of the Earth perfectly and not move 1 pixel for 5 hours, right? No mount does that. There are a few who get close, but how they get there and how they get as close as they get is not of interest to anybody who's an app developer. They don't want to know that you have 6 squirrels in a cage, or a servo with encoders, or PEC, or a worm and a ring gear, or a belt drive, or I don't give a damn about it. I just want you go here and track. The better you do, the better. And so from my point of view as somebody who's an app developer, I don't care. And that's what ASCOM does, is it boils the operations down to the stuff that we do every night, and not all the machinery that's inside under the hood. Yeah, okay, I have a Wankel engine under there, or a diesel engine, I got a whatnot carburetor, blah, blah. What I care about is when I get in the car, I look at the speedo and I look out the thing and I grab the wheel and I step on the gas, Nowadays, I don't have a shifter, so what the hell? But you got the idea. I know how to drive a car because they all act the same, except in England, it's the other way around. Well, okay, but it's not that. It pretty much that's how it is, and that's the purpose of ASCOM, was to level that playing field and make it all the same. So whether it's over Wi-Fi or serial, or or internet, Wi-Fi or Ethernet or COM on Windows between the app and the driver, it doesn't matter. It's all the same stuff. So I think hopefully I've answered your question well enough.
So is it now? So now we move. So is it basically moving away from direct connect via USB and everything like that, and we're more moving towards more of a network protocol?
We hope so.
We hope so.
Because USB, my other life is that I have hundreds, more than hundreds, actually, lots of hundreds of people running automation software similar to the ones I've mentioned. And they all come to me when things don't work because I sold them the automation software. And the other reason they come to me is that they don't feel comfortable trying to ask ABC focuser developer for help, because when they try, they're like, huh? It must be the program. Yeah. So I start at my end and I get on. I mean, this is how I make part of my living, is I will hop on with them remotely and I'll work through the problem as an engineer systematically. Okay, I see this, I see this, I see this. Oop, it's disconnecting on the USB. And that's the number one thing I see over and over is USB flakiness.
That's
and so
one of the questions.
It's got to be the number one problem everywhere.
Yeah. I mean, that's one of the questions.
Especially people who put who put cameras through USB hubs.
Yeah, well, that's a problem.
Man.
But Paul wants to know, what are the perceived drawbacks to USB connectivity? I think it works fine.
Well, then you're lucky. Cables popping out, cheap cables, moisture getting in and making the connection crappy. On your USB hub, is your power supply putting out full power or full voltage at the current that's being drawn by that? Yep. Then tomorrow you plug a light in there and it sucks down, it's drawing more current. Now your little worthless power supply delivers less voltage. Now you have a lower voltage margin on the USB itself, and it'll work fine. But every week this damn thing disconnects. So now you're down at the hairy edge all the time, and people tend to kind of be curmudgeons and skinflints on their equipment, so they don't buy the good stuff. It works great, right? And then it's winter, and every winter I get a bunch of calls from people because not a bunch, but a number of calls from people because things stop working when it gets cold.
Yep,
and it's always USB.
Yep.
That's true.
So
now,
it's nasty.
Now, it's different when you're sitting there and you're talking about devices that are kind of made for certain things. If you're adding like USB hubs or something like that, you come into a lot of those issues. But if you have something, let's say, we talk about it all the time, an Eagle or a ZWASI, which is made to only use 4 or 7 USB ports, and it has a power bridge in there, that's one thing. If you are just got like this 7-port hub or a rig runner or something like that, where you're just popping stuff in there, you come into the same issue that Bob's been talking about, where power drop-offs, communication errors, all that kind of stuff can start to happen, especially if you're not using a powered USB hub, if you're using one, and if you can even power it. So,
well, I have a number of people who've put Eagles on their pier, and they are very careful with the cables, especially. And one of my customers put a light bulb under it so it didn't get too cold during the winter.
I've heard people doing that, actually. I have heard people doing
it.
But...
So it is and it makes a lot of heat itself. But anyway,
Yeah.
all I'm trying to say is that Wi-Fi and Ethernet is probably a better way of connecting. But the real advantage of this is that somebody can come along and write an app on Linux and talk to your device without having to go through USB, and you can share devices. It's just a much more open and even, ecosystem that way.
Yeah.
So let me ask, so Bob, let me ask this, and me being also somewhat being an IT and a network guy. So are we thinking, since we're going across a Ethernet or Wi-Fi or Wi-Fi, that are we looking at the eventuality with ALPACA and everything, that devices, mounts, focusers, cameras, you name it, are we talking eventually that these will all be also Wi-Fi enabled or Ethernet enabled, anything, or we can say maybe we can connect these instead of maybe like an Eagle or an ASI Air, say maybe we have a small PoE switch where we have everything connected through that PoE switch where it's supplying power, is doing everything, and then we can bring that back. It's either communicating back either over Wi-Fi or via Ethernet back to our home network, and we're able to manage things like that. Are we is that the somewhat of a plan or an idea that these devices will somewhat be smart enabled or anything like that, or like an IoT type of thing, or am I a little bit too far off?
Well, we looked at that, and then we talked to people in our that are out there that run shared observatories, university observatories, things like that. And the 100%, well, 99% of the people that actually thought about it said, we will never trust the security on a focuser. You could put anything on a focuser. We'll never put something like that on our network that somebody made in their basement, and then somebody else programmed the thing and then put it on our network. The only way they'll accept that is for them to be on a local net, isolated from the public internet. The point of ALPACA is not to provide the ability to control a focuser from 5,000 miles away, or like you would, your thermostat in your house or something like that. That's not the point. The idea is for the computer that is interfacing with those devices, which is now connecting with USB, can go and connect with them over a network connection, but within a LAN segment. And then and that would be, and then in a shared environment, such as an observatory where they have multiple tenants, we would expect them anyway to provide VLAN isolation for those people, so that you don't have somebody on network segment A that's able to go in and hack into somebody else's machine on another tenant's.
Yeah, because that would be another question I was asking. Yeah, exactly. That was one of my questions I was thinking about was, the security, the network security.
Yeah. And it's a never-ending thing. No matter what, if you get into a discussion with a security ninny, you will lose in every single instance, because they have an infinite number of things that they can pull out of their back pocket. It's like insane people that make up crazy shit. Crazy stuff.
There you go. We went. All right, second one.
There's the gong that make up crazy stuff and then worry about it.
Right.
So that make up crazy stuff when you can make up lots of crazy stuff and then turn around and worry about it. Nah. So anyway, we designed it to work in an observatory environment by itself, isolated from the public internet and isolated from other tenants in a shared observatory with a VLAN or whatever. And those people who run those shared observatory, most of them totally get that, and they have that already in there.
Right.
So,
Bob,
but it's a valid concern. It's a very good question.
Bob,
go ahead.
You mentioned that with
yes,
ALPACA, ALPACA being in its infancy right now.
And then what would be the driving matrix that would say, okay, we got to kind of push it because we can definitely see the benefits of it. Because once again, there's got to definitely be the benefits and the features that justify it. I agree with what you're saying. I can definitely see the benefits of it. Is it going to be consumer based, reaching out to these OEMs to be able to tell
Yes.
their software people to make it software compatible? Because Optech is very, very, they're very good. They're always kind of state of the art. I see that, talking to Jeff, he saw the benefits of it and he jumped on it right away. Yep. But how do we get these other devices with the software? How do we get those people involved? I think that's going to be the key. I mean, it's either you see the light or you just kind of go by the wayside.
Right. Yep.
So
I can't do it. Developers can't do it. I'm sorry, I jumped on you, Eric.
I'm sorry. I was thinking, is it going to have to be more like a grassroots campaign from the consumers to really drive?
Just like anything else. The companies are going to respond to their customers. They're not going to respond to some, guy that's walking around telling them that they should be doing this because they're dumb if they don't. That isn't going to work. So, if you can see the benefit of having a choice, also the app developers themselves, the people who develop the applications, they can go out to their customers and say, I would do this, but this device doesn't work. Right now, I do that from time to time, but it's I will help a customer. Here's an example of that. I just helped a customer this week with brand Y, and I'm not going to say who it was, which they had a switch that when you connected to it with the standard ASCOM switch interface, it instantly generated an error. And they thought it was my software, of course. So I had to show them that where I make that call and I put together a repro scenario and I got to that point. How can you ship something like this? How do you ship something that connecting to it instantly generates an error? Well, maybe there's some setting in there, I don't know what, but they couldn't get the company to respond, and it put us into a bad situation. And they'll eventually respond. But the point is, if the customer really gets on the company, and they will, because I always tell them, don't let these people off the hook, because if I solve their problem, then it's my problem, and I don't want problems of other people's stuff. I won't program around other people's bugs. I never will do that, and I haven't for 20 years. Well, more than that, but in astronomy, I haven't for 20 plus years. And the idea is, if somebody's got a bug, they need to fix it. You paid them the money, go back, tell them to fix it. In the case of ALPACA, if you would like to have that freedom, or you think it would be cool, let them know. So it's just what you said, it's grassroots. It's not going to be somebody like me. Although I'm doing it because I'm trying to light the grass on fire, so to speak.
Hey man, sometimes
great example of that is the auto industry. The auto industry, is notorious for crash testing their vehicles, from here to Tuesday, and that is in direct response to people's need and they wanting better things. One of the things that you mentioned, Bob, early on was, like the domination of the evil empires. Right, that you must connect to our stuff and our stuff only, right? And that, I agree with you. I think that's a bunch of horse hockey. I've never liked that. I've always been kind of an open source guy. So let me ask you this: will down the road? Maybe it'll do it now, but if not, down the road, will you be able to? Will this software be able to? Have a workaround so that you can use, a QHY camera with a ZWO ASI Air?
That would be for you to talk to QHY and ASI Air, or ASI and ZWO, because both of those companies make ASCOM drivers for their cameras, to their credit. And the fact that their own boxes don't use that is something that is a limitation. One can use a QHY camera with lots of programs out there if they use either the ASCOM driver or if the author of that program has taken the time to write the native logic to talk to their native driver. Well, this brings up another issue. If the native driver works better than the ASCOM, i.e., if the native driver gives better features for certain applications, like SharpCap's a perfect example. You cannot do that through an ASCOM driver, and that's fine. That there was never an intention for a camera to deliver what amounts to slow scan video over the ASCOM interface. So that's not, that wasn't it. There is a video interface. It was done by a guy named Risto Pavlov about 5 years ago. Nobody took it, and but that's one end of the spectrum. But for regular, imaging, where you take 1 to multi-second images and save them and stack them and all that sort of thing, that's a different issue, and that can use the ASCOM interface, and you've got the capability of being used from a number of programs without having to do anything special to talk to that camera. So to their credit, they deliver them already with those interfaces. What were you going to say?
Bob, that brings up a really good point, because in my position, and Dan, in your position, we literally have to assemble components. We have to assemble optical trains. Having been involved in this business as long as I have, I know the strengths and weaknesses of all the OEMs. And so it'd be great to be able to say, hey, look, we can do this, we can do this, we can do this. And guess what? We got one universal platform that will let them all talk to each other. Instead, we have to pull our hair out because we have different applications, different drivers. And you're right. I mean, I used to be black here. You just have black hair until like 2017.
Well, the camera ecosystem is a total mess. Everything else is in pretty good shape. Focusers, domes, telescopes, weather stations, what am I leaving out? Rotators, that all works pretty well on a universal platform, universal interfaces. But the cameras are tough. And the reason is the camera makers have two masters. They sell some of their cameras to astronomers, and then they sell a whole bunch more to life sciences people who put them inside DNA sequencers, microscopes, and all this stuff. And they don't want to have to put, they have their API, and the people who sell $10 million microscopes have no problem having developers develop to their special API and have that camera in there. And then that's great, because now they're stuck. They've captured this microscopy company with their camera, because it's going to cost them a whole bunch more to develop and then certify another camera for their microscope. So you've got these two forces pulling the camera manufacturers, and it's really a difficult situation.
Yeah,
I saw that happen with Nikon.
Yeah, that's a really interesting concept, because a lot of people don't know, especially if you're an astrophotographer, that most of the CMOS chips, astrophotography is this little part of that whole business. And when the CMOS chips are used for so many different things. It's another reason why we got a little bit of a shortage. But that being said, I mean, the astrophotography community is literally such a small percentage of the people that actually use these chips for photography, but just not for other aspects, not just astrophotography.
Right.
I just want to make sure that this doesn't. I want to make sure this meeting doesn't end up focusing on camera problems and everybody telling war stories about what a pain in the neck they are, because they are, and that's just the way it is. And I don't want it to be lost on our audience that all the other stuff is doing very well on a universal platform. And the reason that we're not talking about them is it all works. And so, it's really important to understand that. I will say one other thing about cameras. I have a future look. First of all, the chips, yes, they're commonly used in a lot of things, but there are cameras that are made for astronomy specifically, and they happen to work also, microscopy and astronomy. But there's one thing that astronomy has that CMOS chips have needed, and that's to be able to stack lots of short exposures. I can also tell you we made a change to the ASCOM camera interface last year to allow you to specify not only the total exposure, but the sub-exposure interval. And the idea there was for cameras to do the stacking on board. So you're not dumping 20 or 30 or 40, 400 megabyte images into your computer and then stacking them there. You get one image back. And that's a big deal. And I know of one company who's already doing that. And they even went smarter. They put a special video chip in there, and they take an image and they figure out what the optimum sub-exposure interval is, and then they do those. You don't even have to tell them. You don't have to make that decision. They're also figuring out exactly what the bias level is on the camera
on the fly.
But, I mean, you don't set that. It's all automatic, and so things are going to get better. But anyway, I just don't want the cameras to become the total discussion topic here, because everybody starts talking about that and then it never ends.
So
we got a few
basically,
questions.
Is that a firmware update?
getting back to ALPACA, is it going to be basically people, kind of like an open source, people be coming in, working with you, putting all the coding together? Once again, you'll be kind of leading the organization, I'm sure. But how do you envision this kind of unfolding over the next 3 to 5 to 10 years?
Excellent question. Like with ASCOM itself, our mission is to supply specifications, documentation, and tools that a developer can use to build the pieces that talk to each other over the universal interface. We don't design any drivers or anything because we don't know anything about how the innards of those things work anyway. Plus, why would we want to design a driver for some company and then what? Then they get to go out and sell it, and then when it's broken, they come back to us? No, that their employees do that. So we're spec makers, we're flag wavers. I'm like I wave the flag a lot. I'm a, what do you call it? A community organizer, so to speak. And I'm trying to get people. Yeah, exactly. And although I am also working on some Python libraries that we'll put out there. There's libraries being done in C#, and everybody goes, "Ew, C#, that's Microsoft, right?" But I hate to say it, it runs on every platform out there, and it is an awesome language. It's way, if you don't know that .NET runs natively on everything, and Microsoft's made a big thing about open source and native on all platforms, and so they're doing that. Some other Peter Simpson and Daniel Van Noord have been working on tools, and then I'm spinning up and trying to learn. Well, I've learned a lot about Python in the last year, so there'll be that for Python, and so for developers, that's our thing. Is we try to support developers so they can bring devices and apps online on that common bus. And that's it. So that's where I fit into the picture. I don't do any programming for any company.
Wow.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Did that answer your question? I'm sorry.
No, it answered my question. Yeah.
Cool.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Good. So there were a couple questions here from the audience, and I think you pretty much answered a couple of them, but I was going to recap them. Al was asking, so is ALPACA taking over? Is ALPACA talking to the ASCOM driver, or is it replacing the driver? I think we've kind of answered that in a way, but I want to let you go ahead, Bob.
I got the idea. The ASCOM driver, which I think he's talking about, is something that runs on Windows. Because that's the only place ASCOM drivers run, right? And what it does is at the top end, it provides that common language interface. Slew to target, are you still slewing? At the top end. At the bottom end, it's maybe sending electrical signals, maybe sending, I don't know what, to make the mount do that, but it doesn't matter. That's what its job is to provide that common interface. So ALPACA will allow an application. Well, okay, so the app talks to the driver on Windows through Windows. Windows has a system by which an application can call slew to target in its own language, and by total magic, the driver gets that call slew to target, and then it can act on it. And the app can say, "Are you still slewing?" in its own language, and there are 22 different languages that support that. And then the driver can get that, "Are you still slewing?" and then can answer true or false. So that's the system by which an app talks to a driver on Windows through Windows. It's a service that's provided by the OS. It's totally cool. But no other operating system has that. So what you do have is a way of talking through TCP/IP and HTTP and network protocol, blah, 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 whatever. It's all standard. It's called REST. And again, the application, all languages on all platforms have REST libraries. So it's not as totally simple as it was with the classic ASCOM, but all the pieces are there for you to do the same sort of thing. So ALPACA replaces COM as a communication between the app and the device. If I can explain it any better,
Right.
I would try. I have a diagram. That was one of the devices in my video, but it went so fast, I know it's really hard to
because it's going basically to the REST library, and you're basically talking all basically over that REST through that REST library. It's basically you're kind of talking over IP. So everything Mac, because you're talking over IP, Windows, Linux, Mac OS, whatever. Everybody talks over TCP/IP or HTTP or whatever. So it's basically doing the same thing. It's just not
Right.
just for Windows, it's for everything. So nice.
I see Barbara Harris, who I know, has asked a question about, do you need the ASCOM platform for ASCOM or a different ASCOM platform? The platform on Windows is a set of libraries that the developers of apps and drivers used. You don't need any platform, even on Windows, if you don't want. But everybody uses it because it saves them a boatload of time, and it also lowers the development risk that they have. So the platform is a convenience, but you could write an application to talk to an ASCOM driver with no platform if you wanted. But the platform would undoubtedly use some of the libraries that are in that ASCOM platform. So it's an infrastructure for Windows that makes it easier for developers to get things right. On outside of Windows, on Mac or Linux, there's no such thing. We do have actually YAML, yet another markup language, and there's a JSON version of the interface. Now I'm getting into developer stuff.
That's okay.
Forget it. There's stuff out there that make it easier. We are working on libraries for that you can get off open source and then start with at least the low-level interfacing stuff already written. And I'm just wrapping up one for Python for a client side. For anybody who's writing an app in Python can talk to an ALPACA device or through ASCOM remote to a Windows device on another machine. So I hope Barbara, I hope I answered your question okay. Yeah, there probably won't be a platform, so to speak.
But it's basically everybody borrowing the same books out of the same library, and no matter where you are.
That's what we're trying to give the tools, the conformance checker, the abstract interface definitions that you can use as reference for building your driver or for your application. So you get it right. If things don't work right in a distributed environment, it's hell. I mean, the quality has to be there, or people, I don't know how many times I've heard this. It's that damn ASCOM. That's okay, fine, but it was the damn guy who wrote the shoddy driver for this crappy telescope that's the problem.
Yep.
Right.
So, but we just soldier on,
Yeah.
I mean, all of us have been using ASCOM for as long as I can remember. I mean, that's
Yeah, I mean, anybody who has a Windows PC and you're running this type of stuff, everything's on ASCOM.
Yeah, Tarek even said basically
And it's just like, plumbing, which is why nobody really sees it.
Yeah, well, Tarek, who's on the show like almost every night, he goes, well, I don't know about anybody else, but I consider ASCOM to be the operating system for all astronomy. So, and
that's
in a way,
good
he's
way
right.
to put it.
He's right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because you know what? If you don't have the ASCOM drivers, and if you're running Nina, SGP, whatever acquisition software you decide, use SharpCap, I mean, you got to have ASCOM. You got to have platform. I remember when 6.5 came out.
Well, because they wrote their software because they didn't have to. You saw that video I put on the list of mounts that the guys at Simulation Curriculum had to put in. Well, and then Bill Toomey, who was actually the author of Sky Safari originally, had to put code in for every one of those mounts. You can only imagine in a pie chart of how much time they spent. And then and here's the big thing, and I don't know if I made that clear enough in the video. If you have a problem and you've written special code, let's say you're SharpCap and you wrote code for the native ZWO camera, right? So now you've got your code up here and ZWO's driver here, right? Mm-hmm. Now you have a problem. Where's the problem? Whose fault is it?
Is it?
How do you know? You have no way to know. So somebody's got to go and figure out, so with a universal interface, if you've written code in your app for a universal interface and you have a bug in it, it's going to affect every camera out there.
Yep.
Right? Well, you already know that it only affects a ZWO. That's the only one that's giving you trouble. Where's the problem? It's in this one device, because otherwise you'd have a crowd of people outside your company with pitchforks and torches, telling you every damn camera that we plug into this thing doesn't work.
Right.
So the universal interface is a huge help in solving problems also.
Yep. I totally see it. Let's see. Who else? Do we have any other questions? Yep. So it's about flexibility, no longer tied to a Windows-only communication protocol. Very much
right.
so.
Right. Very good.
So I'm seeing if there were any other questions here, and I don't really see any other directed questions just yet. Unless you see any here, Dan.
No, I think we caught up.
Okay.
What I'm going to do is hop on to a website for everybody to look at. I'm not going to give you a guided tour or anything like that. But what I would like to do, if it's okay with you, is share my screen for a moment.
Yep.
And it's this screen here. Okay. Up here, ascom-standards.org. Everything you probably come here to download the platform.
Yep.
But there's other things here. This is in one picture what we do and where we are and where we came from. Well, here's what we do. That's just us. And then that's the general interface definitions here, and then they apply to the COM Windows one. And then now in 2018, we applied the same set of nouns and verbs exactly to ALPACA, so they can work interchangeably. And then if you want to learn more about what it is, this About ASCOM section, here's pretty much the same things that I showed you in my video. I'm not going to belabor it. It's not worth going through all that. But this is, because since I already did anyway, you can learn about the community. You can learn about what we do. There's documents, how to download drivers. Some of the, whoops, what did I do here? Download center. Yeah. So these are all the different kinds of drivers you can download, or there are links to people's drivers that they published. We started out hoping the manufacturers would simply ship the drivers with their equipment, and some do, some don't. There are still third-party people writing drivers, and that's a problem because you don't know anything about the box you're writing the driver for, and you end up being responsible for the firmware problems. So anyway, so I just wanted to point you out to the ascom-standards.org website.
So you got a question from Barbara Harris on the screen.
There we go. Ah. No, to answer your question, the Sky-Fi basically connects Sky Safari by Wi-Fi to a little thing that then speaks the native serial line XYZ #154 protocol. It is as though you were connected from your serial port to the mount with no driver. And all of that special code is inside Sky Safari. So no, the Sky-Fi is out of the picture. In Sky Safari 7, you have an ALPACA capability. Any mount that's on Windows can expose itself to ALPACA through ASCOM Remote. And Sky Safari has no mount-specific logic in that case. It simply speaks the standard nouns and verbs, ASCOM/ALPACA nouns and verbs over the internet or over the network. And that's it. That was the little video I showed before, and I think I can do it again. Let's do this. I think this is going to be it. Why do I not see this? Okay, here. All right, let's see if I can. So for ALPACA, you would go telescope presets. In this case, you'd pick this thing. I don't have the whole thing here. I thought this was the little segment of this. Let me see if that's right. Okay, yeah. You go in here and you, instead of picking Sky-Fi, you pick ALPACA. Sky-Fi, if you pick that, you end up seeing all of the different telescopes, that giant list that I showed you. And Sky-Fi is simply an alternative to a serial line to those scopes. And the people at Simulation Curriculum would be responsible for doing the right thing with the scope. In the case of ALPACA, you connect the scope to a standard, thing, and there you are. So that's the difference. I don't know if I made that very clear. Again, it's plumbing, so it's kind of hard to stop sharing, click. All right, there we go. I know how to get back now quickly. All right. Barbara, I hope I answered your question. All right.
So I think, we're talking all about, software and everything and how everything talks. I think I'd be remiss without bringing up DC3 Dreams, which I know is your baby. So why don't you tell us a little bit what's going on with DC3?
Well, in the video I'm another acquisition software provider, but I have a little bit different take on things. I try to make things extremely simple from the user's point of view and remote. So the way you acquire images is by using your web browser. I can give you a brief, quick look at that if you wish. And I'm not going to try to make this too complicated, but I can, let's see. Where did you go? I lost you. Hold on. Are you still seeing me?
Yep.
Yes.
Oh, I see. Here we go. All right. Let me move this browser over here and this one over here. And then I'm going to share my screen. Now, it's a much bigger screen than I would expect, but I'm not going to set everything up and try and do a live demo. I wasn't expecting that. Can you see this now?
Yep.
So from a student's point of view, and most of our observatories are remote or backyard with people who really want to go simple. So for an example, if you were taking a series of images for color, you would just use this form where you put out the target name, the RA, and the deck. And if you have a rotator, there'll be a rotation number there. I want 10 images, 10 images in red, and each of them 600 seconds with a binning of 1, blah, blah. You fill those out. You can add more rows. When you're all done, you press acquire images and walk away. You don't do anything else. All it does is get images. You don't have any planners, planetariums, or nothing. It's an interface, a very simple interface. And so we wrote this for students who they absolutely positively do not want getting on remote desktop to the observatory PC, right? Can you imagine? So, and also team members. In the old days, we people who had teams would, person A would get on one night and they go, I've got to adjust the guiding, and this thing guides like crap and blah, blah, blah. And then the next night somebody gets on there and it won't guide because they diddled around with stuff because it was a bad night. Well, I have to adjust the aggressiveness and blah, blah, So even teams getting in and dialing all the dials and changing everything was a problem. So instead, they get on with the web and they just fill the form out and they push a button and they get stuff. Second level of what I do is and so it's totally automated. I mean, if people don't believe it, how do you even, it's impossible. You can't totally automate an observatory. Well, it is. The second level of that is that I have a scheduling system that's not like a machine shop scheduler. It's what I call a just-in-time scheduler. It looks at everything that you want to image for the next 6 months. And then based on your criteria, that is how far above the horizon you want, how high how much moon you want, depending if you can shoot narrowband and more moon than you can other. And you put all those constraints in there, and then it just sits there and starts up in the evening, does your flats, then or in the morning it'll do flats and biases, whatever you want to do. Then it starts observing. If the weather gets bad, it closes up. When the weather gets good, it opens up. And you can't just start where you left off, right, on a static plan, because now all your targets are way further west. So you go back and you look at everything you want for the next 6 months and you go, this is the right time to do this stuff. Plus, it's smart enough to know how to manage the sky that it can do the entire Messier marathon in one night. It knows without giving any order. It will work through your requests through artificial intelligence and figure out what it needs to do to get the whole Messier marathon done in one night. So it's sophisticated. It's different. It's super easy to use. And I should point out and I know I'm making probably being more commercial than I should, but let me show you one thing.
Looks like Scott's having dinner. So, I mean,
I can't type right now. Right. So this facility here.
Eric, I think you muted, Eric.
Yeah, I am. I'll wait.
I saw the mouth moving, and I'm like, I don't.
Yeah, I realized. I was like, wait a minute.
It's like silent movie.
Yeah, I know, right?
So this is one of just probably, I'll say 30 or 40 big observatories that we have. This one is in the Great Basin National Park, and let me scroll a bit down. It's not accessible to the public, but it serves 4 colleges. There they are, down along the bottom. You can see these colleges are their students use this, and it's totally remote, and it's in one of the darkest places in the Northern Hemisphere. And the guy who found this site is a guy named Dan Dorisco, and I just talked to one of his coworkers who's doing night sky survey on the Channel Islands off of the west coast, off of LA. But Dan went all over in all the national parks. He works for the National Park Service. Well, he retired now. But he backpacked my software, ACP, with a special night sky brightness monitoring script. And they did that for many years. And they got night sky brightness surveys of all the national parks. And then they took that back and managed to get the people in the vicinity to work on their light pollution, which is cool. But anyway, the Great Basin Observatory was commissioned in 2018. It went from groundbreaking to first light in 5 weeks, if you can believe that. And anyway, this would be a typical kind of customer that we would serve. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 observatories, and their students use this. It's pretty heavily used. So that's just give you and it's scheduled. Everybody puts in everything they want, and then their data gets delivered by Dropbox. They come in the morning, and there it all is. Whatever happened to be gotten. Well, when do I get my data? Who can predict the weather? So
Exactly.
that's the answer, and they get used to that. And then they find out that they get about 5 times the amount of work out of the observatory that you can when you have somebody in there twisting dials and pushing buttons by hand.
That's been
So that's what we do for a
bone of
living.
contention with me and Eric as far as the skies are concerned. So Eric's from the suburbs of Chicago, and I'm from Long Island. So we both have. Eric's just got a better Bortle sky, but he's got some bad.
But I've just it's that this Midwest sky, man. You just forget about it. The Midwestern sky, you just forget about it.
Yeah.
But I have a number of customers who have observatories on the East Coast in bad weather, and that's the thing. They put everything they want in there. I wish I could. Peter Prendergast being one of them, and if you ever meet him, he's an interesting guy. He's a physician, but he has an observatory in North Carolina where he's many times has gone to bed when it's been raining, and he wakes up the next morning and discovers about 5 hours of data have been taken, because after the storm came through, the beautiful skies came, and everybody was asleep, and our software woke up, opened up, did everything it needed to do, and then started acquiring data without him ever having to lift a finger, because it already had all of his requests from maybe months ago sitting in the scheduler's database. So that's just a different way of looking at things. But the reason most people think our software is crazy is because we charge a lot of money for it. But it's a high value thing, and I work very hard, and I work very closely with people for support, and we make a nice living. It's a different dynamic of people that we work with.
Sure. Do you foresee this eventually, as it, if it does catch fire, that it would be something that, such as this gentleman, this doctor you were mentioning, that this would be something that could, say, in the next maybe 10 years, be something that would be available to more and more backyard astronomers to have that type of software?
Oh, yeah. Oh, you mean my software, my commercial software?
Yeah. Well, something like that. Or
maybe.
Something where it's more personal, that type of stuff. So that would be interesting.
It would. It takes that. What I'm talking about took a lot of years to develop. And the guys that did SGP, they keep making theirs better. And Dale and the guys on Nina, they keep making it better. Voyager's getting better and better. I mean, you just don't know. I mean, these people, they're amazing. The things that they are doing, and they're responding to their customers. I just had a completely different idea of making it dog simple stupid, and then using that to address people who don't want to, or I'll call it, don't take this the wrong way. My customers are not telescope huggers. They're just people who want to get, okay, I wanted to, and then they want to do the art. They're artists or they're scientists. They want to get the data and then go do the science that they want to do. They don't want to worry or fiddle or plan or sit there and try to figure out what things to shoot tonight and all that stuff. They don't want to do that. And so I had a different view of the world, and I didn't get rich quick off of it. But the software's out there, and it's addressing a certain need, and so I'm a happy camper, and so are my customers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Somebody else could
Now,
do it. I mean, I published the whole damn guts of the scheduler in 2006, how it works, how it makes decisions, everything. It's been out there public as an engineering white paper.
Oh wow. Now, someone I think mentioned in the chat here, I don't recall who, I can't find the question, mentioned something about with ALPACA, and guiding and using and do you have any, and I apologize, I'm trying to find that question and see, let's see what it was about as far as ALPACA and communication. We'll say, well, like now you have with guiding, would it have to do, does it do anything with like guiding or guide cameras or anything like that, or is it strictly just for those types, just for the communication between the hardware and the software? Is it just more that interface, or is it going to do anything, like guiding over, IP or something like that?
No, it gives, camera is a camera. So if you have guiding software, i.e. something like PhD would see an ASCOM camera out there and then do its thing. And PhD is also hooked to the telescope. It would see an ASCOM telescope out there and talk to that and then guide. So the whole purpose of ASCOM is to connect apps to devices, and the dumber the device, the better. Really, literally, is from looking at it from an ASCOM standpoint, because there's really not much. And I'll go back to the telescope. Yeah, you have to be able to park it. Sometimes there's different tracking rates. If you're going to view satellites, now you've got a whole different problem. But for astronomy, you have go here and either track sidereally or offset from sidereal to track a comet or an fast-moving asteroid or whatever. That's it. Those are the things that a mount has to do. So the more smarts behind that, for guiding, for example, that would be taking pictures and then deciding whether you need to nudge the mount one way or the other. That's a closed loop system. Well, the internet inside the observatory on, gigabit Ethernet, you don't have any latency at all. So as far as the guiding servo loop, it's not an issue for delay.
Nice. What else?
Okay.
I didn't see any
I
others.
don't really think I see any others here. But no, I'm actually, with this, with ALPACA, being basically, serviceable, having this, I don't know, I guess I'm just stuttering here, but having this, this one platform, if you want to call it, being able to be usable by so many other platforms, so many other operating systems, it can manage all these other devices that we can use now with ASCOM, but now you can have Mac, Linux, whatever, being able to run all this stuff. That's going to be pretty exciting, because not everybody runs Windows. A lot of people like Linux.
Right.
A lot of people like Mac. So to have this, to have ALPACA to have this capability to bring ALPACA here, where you're basically talking over your network, over the IP protocol, I think it's slick.
So the thing that I'm going to go back to one thing that I said, which is, and I'm going to say it again. It concerns me to see people trying to create closed systems, and I won't go any farther than that. But I just that it rubs me the wrong way, and so that's
And you know what? And
I
eventually,
wanna,
with having something like ALPACA, you won't have to. We're going to be moving away from it. You would move away from that. You'd have a
well,
you'd have everybody, everything. I'd be able to purchase all different types of equipment. Doesn't matter what it
right,
is, from who
right,
manufacturer. If I find, hey, one manufacturer A doesn't have a feature that I would like, but manufacturer B does, and I can go and get that, and I can stay out of, and I can utilize that with whatever system I'm using. That's just
that's
more
it.
benefit.
Imagine this: you have a program now that does your automation, your image acquisition, and you decide to get a new focuser, but the focuser isn't ASCOM compatible. Now, what do? How does your does Lovely Sky, is it compatible with the Hammerfraz focuser? And that's the worst question in the world, because if the Hammerfraz focuser had an ASCOM interface or an ALPACA interface, you wouldn't ask the question. You would just go buy it, and there it is. And largely, apart from the camera area, that's how it works today. And by virtue of the middleware that we provided on Windows to bridge the Windows and the ALPACA world going both directions, that's the gateway to having this stuff grow organically outside of Windows and work. But it doesn't require Windows. You can have a focuser with a Raspberry, any little tiny computer built into the focus. Well, Optech does that right now. They have a baby computer inside there and Wi-Fi, and it speaks ALPACA. And the Sky can talk to it, even though it knows nothing about ALPACA, because on Windows, we provide a gateway driver for that. It automatically gets created, and now the Sky can talk to that Optech focuser without having to have ALPACA inside of it. This goes back to the original days back in 2000. There was another software company back then that was trying to have the world domination closed system also. And it was a battle. I mean, there were people calling people liars publicly and all sorts of stuff. It was ugly. And it kept going and going. And it took about 7 years for that company to provide ASCOM compatibility for everything. And they did. And so it's just through customer demand. That's the customers wanted it. And that's how it happened. So it was a good, and I expect the same sorts of things to happen this time, and that's fine.
Because who knows? Maybe eventually I'll start hating Microsoft for some reason. I want to go over to Linux. What am I going to do with all of my? Now what happens with all of my stuff?
You're gonna have to sell it all over again.
What? You know what?
You know what?
It's never going to happen, but I'm just saying.
I look at that stuff as the brand of the carburetor or the fuel injector box that's under my hood. The operating system I don't care about. I've been around long enough, and I've been worked on so many OSs. I don't want to get into war stories, but let me put it this way: IBM 1401 is the first machine I ever programmed. It was the size of a refrigerator and had an 8K memory, and I was punching cards. And I've been at it all this time, and I'm right up with it right now. I use Visual Studio Code on the Raspberry Pi to do my Python work, and it's awesome.
I'm just, I wanted to see what it looked like, the 1401. I'm looking at it right now. I forgot what it looked like. That's a little bigger than a refrigerator. That's about the front half of a car.
It had tape drives, and I can tell you it took 3 button pushes to hang a tape. You put it on there, pop that thing, put it through the thing, spin it a couple of times, go boop, boop, boop. The window would come up, it would spin and load, and then it would go online, boom, 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 just like that.
I thought I was bad with the Timex Sinclair 1000, but
The machine that blew my mind was the Control Data 6600. When I walked into the Inglewood Center as a senior in high school and saw that thing, that was it for me. I was like, yeah, this is it.
Yeah. Wow. All right, let's see.
Well, I don't see any more questions here.
So
yeah, I think we are.
Real quick, what about Pinpoint? Also, Pinpoint is your astrometric solution that you have for
Yes.
ACP, right?
Yes. Well, it's for anybody. Surprisingly enough, we sell more Pinpoints than we ever thought we would. And there's a lot of other plate solvers out there. Pinpoint came online in 2004. It is the thing that separates it is that it measures every object in the field for astrometric position to within under an arc second. And it has optical distortion correction, automatic. So a while back, a guy named Don Bruns took pictures to try to duplicate or replicate the Eddington experiment, the thing that measured the deflection of stars around the sun from gravity. And he did that. And then he had to make extremely accurate centroid measurements on those images in order to get the error bars down to make a significant result. Well, he used Pinpoint to do that processing. He tried all kinds of other systems, and there were only two that were in the ballpark, and that was Astrometrica and Pinpoint. And Astrometrica is all manual, and you have to move things around and match things up. Pinpoint's 100% automatic. So again, because I do automation, I mean, you have to be able to do all that hands off. So my wife will tell you the stories of me on her art light box with star fields, matching them up, trying to figure out how to make this happen. And it was, I'd have the image stars and the catalog stars, and I'd be like, how am I going to do this? She'll tell you some good stories about that. But yep, it has done all right for us, and people use it and they're happy.
Yeah.
It's been used for some very special purposes. Plus, it's programmable by 23 different languages. So there's government operations that are using it strictly for picking up the bright object, the spots, the stars, but they're actually satellites. And they pick them up, and then they get the XY coordinates, and they can program Pinpoint directly in MATLAB. And so they do things like looking for satellites. And there's probably 5 government organizations with many installations of Pinpoint that do that. So I never imagined it would be used for that, but because it's programmable, they're doing that too. So
that's awesome. Good. I mean, it seems like I have not used Pinpoint yet. I haven't purchased it yet, but
for just finding the center of an image, there's all kinds of solutions out there.
Yeah,
it's fast.
Oh yeah,
but
yeah, absolutely,
it is.
I know Pete uses it.
But it's not all sky. If it's not able to solve, you can make another function call, and it'll either call what's the thing, the local server? It's
Answer.
Answer, yes. Okay. That's the guy who wrote PhD also did that. Cool. Or astrometry.net.
Yep.
It'll go out to that and do it. And then it just gets the center to start with, and then feeds that back into the Pinpoint engine, and it does the precise solution, and then measures all of the objects in the field to science astrometric accuracy.
Awesome. That's awesome. But also I know that we're almost coming up on 2 hours already, but I don't want to forget to mention the AIC is coming up very, very rapidly. We're talking about a month away or so.
Yes.
And we were talking about it offline, and it turns out you're going to be getting an award.
Yep, they made it public probably a month and 6 weeks or so ago. Yeah, they awarded me the Hubble Award for AIC, which was amazing to me. I almost fell out of my chair because I'm not an astronomer. But they did. That's the amazing thing. I don't have a telescope. I've used lots of them, but I don't have a telescope. I don't do astronomy. What I do is software engineering and customer support, tech support. And then when I'm not doing that, I do other stuff that has nothing to do with programming.
You know, hey, you don't have
But
to
that's a huge
Yeah.
deal.
you know, and you don't have to be an
Obviously.
astronomer to make contributions
Yeah.
to astronomy and astrophotography. There
Yeah.
are, there are so many different avenues, from retail sales and sidewalk astronomy to programmers and developers like yourself. So congratulations
Absolutely.
on the award. So
Yes.
Yeah, it's very much appreciated, because there was an enormous amount of work put into making it happen for ASCOM, and it's also an enormous amount of work for the last 3 or 4 years to make it happen for ALPACA. And it's going to take 5 years. It's like a business. You start a restaurant, don't plan on getting rich until you have it out there for 5 years.
Yep.
That's kind of
Yeah,
Bob's
it's gonna take
business.
You know what it's like, Bob. The hardest thing is getting it started. Once you get started, the momentum and it just the inertia takes over. But
you
it's
have
just
to
getting. I think. Yeah, you have
gotta
to kind
stay
of
on
be
it.
right there. Yeah.
Because there's
And
people who
you're
want
right.
to put their hands on the wheel and slow it down. There are
Yep.
always people with bad ideas, or that want to throw. There's no end to the people who will stand up on a tree stump and tell you what's wrong with it, or why it's bad, or what they would have done if they'd done that. And I've that's just all BS.
We see those posts on cloudy nights, Bob.
no,
Yeah.
Oh
Exactly.
gosh.
You see those on cloudy nights, believe me.
that is one of the things
Oh,
that we
the-
talk about constantly on the show. About
It should be
at
called
Cloudy
whiny nights.
Yeah,
Whiny
well,
nights is the better choice name.
Cloudy Nights has
I
its
wanna-
place. It's got its place.
you
And
know-
you know what? The problem is what you disseminate out of those comments, because you could very easily, and I say this all the time, this has been one of my constant sayings, I guess, or whenever this comes up. You start off with, hey, my PhD guiding is off. I need to get these numbers down. You end up with the recipe for peanut butter and jelly. And
Right.
that's what it is. But you got to be able to kind of pull the information that you need out of all the forums. It's not only Cloudy Nights, it's all the forums.
I have to show you something which just
Sure.
knocked me out.
Oh no. Should I be
I
scared?
don't
Do I-
know if I can get this window to show. Let's see. How's
Yeah,
this?
it's there.
Is that showing?
Yeah, hold on, let me
All
make
right.
you big. Hold on a second. And okay.
Is there a way to? Okay, so what happened is that I had put an announcement on Cloudy Nights that there was an open source cross-platform toolkit for ALPACA available, and I put it into the astronomy software section because I thought people would be interested there.
Right.
They moved it over to the vendor section. Well, first of all, they forced me to wear this vendor badge. I have never posted anything on there of a commercial basis in the vendor section. All I want to do is talk ALPACA in there and defend it and help people. I've been helping people write Python recently a lot. I've been in there quite a bit. But look at this. Look at their reasoning for moving them out of there into the vendor section. The consensus is that the posts belong in vendor announcements, while the products, they're not products, they're open source tools, are open source. You were heavily involved with their development and use them in your product.
So because you use it in your own software, and Pete, I think you muted.
That was the basis on which they funnel it over into the vendor section, which how many other people use it? And I don't actually use any ALPACA stuff in my own software anyway.
Well, wait a minute. What's the definition of consensus? Consensus is more than one person, right? I mean, that's the moderator that decided to move that over.
Yeah.
Well, and it doesn't violate any of their published rules either.
Yeah.
So,
That's a
it was
shame.
just one of those.
That's just what
That's
just what people call being a Karen.
Yeah, so
Yep.
Cloudy nights.
You know what? I mean,
This is what I mean. It's never a smooth road or a
No.
easy way to get this stuff going. There's always people out there,
they're putting up
you
the
know what,
roadblocks.
urinating on the campfire, right?
Yeah,
So-
they're putting up the roadblocks.
Oh yeah, you're
So to
never
speak.
going to run short of people getting their knot in a fluffy. I mean,
Right.
that's just
Right.
that's just the way it is. You know,
Yep.
one of the things that I learned a long time ago is that, you know, inevitably people are going to offend you. Some people are going to do it, you know, they're going to do it accidentally. Some people are going to do it deliberately. And the ones that do it deliberately, those are the ones that I love to mess with, because I just turn it right around, represent it back to them, say thank you for the attempt, smile, and go on my way.
Yeah, I have really thick skin. I spent
Yep.
18 years as a volunteer deputy sheriff, and I became sought after as a volunteer partner because nobody could get to me. I was just,
Exactly.
and I could always carry on a conversation with anyone and defuse the situation. There was always some piece of common ground that I could talk to somebody about, and you know, really be sincere. And it that's a great skill. And I didn't know how many engineers do you know that would be able to operate in that space. Somehow I managed it, and it was just wonderful. It was a totally big break in my career. I started at age 50 and ended at age 71. So it was pretty cool.
Wow.
Oh, that's great.
Whew.
Mm.
Well, let's see. Is there any more questions from the viewer membership? Any more questions to ask Bob?
No, you know,
No,
everyone's been
that's what I was
going
looking
off
at, and I don't think so.
on the I guess the whole IBM big
Yeah,
massive
the
mainframe
old
has spurred
TRS 80.
spurred off
See what
conversations
you started, Bob? See what you've started?
Yeah.
with old computers.
I didn't see
going
all
back
this.
to
Let's see.
the TRS or trash
Oh
80,
my
they've been
God.
calling it.
Well, all right.
And,
So here we go.
here we go.
CDC 6600. This is the thing that, let me get the picture here. There's one good picture that represents what it looked like back in the old days. Somewhere in here. Well, I don't know. This is probably the closest I can come. Come on, man. Bring it in. Nope. That didn't work. Yeah, that's a tiny. I probably am not going to be able to find a great picture of it. That the one that was in the Inglewood. Come on, man. All right, let me just save this and see if I can make this be really low quality, but maybe I can make it work. Desktop, save. All right. All right, here we go. Come on. Open it up. There. Oh, yeah, that's not even going to work. Well, it's not too bad, but nah. Well, all right. I'll show it. Who cares? It's just something. That thing.
Oh yeah.
The CPU is behind you. And this thing on the side is a giant disk drive that the disks were not horizontal, they were vertical, like a wheel on a car. And it was a whole bunch of them, and it was hydraulic. And when the heads would move, it would shake. And behind you is the big CDC 6600 CPU and 8 peripheral processor units. It was just an amazing. That doesn't even do it justice, but anyway, that's something. It's a hint anyway.
That's funny.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
But I spent.
Yeah, we're all indebted
of
to John von Neumann, aren't we?
Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
I spent most of my
I bet
mid
you
career
there
working.
probably aren't very many people who even know who von Neumann is.
Oh, Jesus, yes. On so many levels. He was one of those Hungarian amazing men from Mars. He was just, Edward Teller, all those guys. They were just out of this world. Literally.
Yeah, it was his. He got his start. Yeah, believe it or not, the main thrust for his initial work was to crack the Nazi codes in World War II, and that's where the von Neumann machine came from. It's a fascinating study in history. It really is.
Yep.
Oh, here we go. This is better.
Yeah. What is it? What was that movie? When it had Cumberbatch in it.
Imitation Game.
Yeah, Imitation Game.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, there was
That
one
was
before
great.
that, and this is a lesser known one. It was with Martin Sheen. It was called Enigma.
Oh yeah,
I think I've heard of it. I've heard of it.
You want? I can start. I can bring out other ones. But even older than that. I'm a big movie buff, so.
And the train is shaking on the rails.
Oh God. Cold water, hot water. No, cold water. No, sorry.
Here's a top
Yeah,
view
I
of the
think so.
66.
Wow.
Oh yeah.
Holy cow! Yeah.
So that's pretty
crazy.
Cool. Yep. All right. So
that's out of control.
It's really cool.
That's a monster.
Great machine. Yep. Indeed. Whoops.
Actually, John G. actually said Enigma before I said Martin Sheen. He was like Enigma.
Enigma. Yeah.
Yes, I am. I am more a Trekkie, Bill. That's our AOS member, Bill Bradley, who's in the same astronomy club as I am. Even though he is a lot more involved with it. I don't think I've gotten to a meeting in about 5 years, but he is one of the board members of AOS. So hi, Bill. How you doing? Good to see you, buddy.
Yeah. We still have 29 people, and that's more than we had a half hour ago.
We peaked at about 37, and right now I'm showing 30 on Melon because Melon actually does Twitch and Twitter and all the other panels too. So people are watching on Facebook. Bill just told me I'm not missing much.
Wow.
So
I'm trying to remember the name of the machine that the Air Force had back in the 40s and 50s, I think maybe in the 50s, that was part of SAC, and they used to do demonstrations.
Semi-automatic.
They would go in, and they would pull cards.
Semi-automatic ground equipment.
That's the one. Yeah, that was an incredible display to watch them pull cards out of that thing, and the thing would continue to run. That it could anticipate those errors, and fix itself. That was really wild.
Yes. Let me see this. Oh, I got
sorry, when you started talking about Scott, we started talking about the Air Force and what was that computer. I was about, you know what I was gonna say? I was about to say the Whopper.
The Whopper. I was gonna say it, I chose not to.
Yeah, I was like, what, the Whopper?
Jerry said the same thing, the Whopper.
Oh boy.
Shall we play a game?
Exactly.
War operations planned
response. Yeah.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah. Great movie.
It was.
One of a kind. One of a kind. Yep.
Right. I just found it crazy.
Oh no, we're bringing them
Invasion of the bee girls. I was looking for a picture of Sage.
I don't know if that's made.
Oh, you got to be careful what you punch into the internet.
Yeah,
This is ridiculous. I have to show it. It's supposedly working the Sage machine. God, I'll find. There's some good pictures in here. Sorry about that, but that just made me laugh.
That's funny.
Invasion of the Bee Girls.
Now you're gonna make me look that up.
You know, huh? All right, here we go. Save image as. Whoops. Save image as. Now all I have to do is bring that one up. This is pretty good. This one really isn't bad at all.
Oh, that just looks like a horrible movie.
What did I just
Oh,
do?
yeah.
I shared the wrong screen or something.
1973 film with nobody in it.
Yeah. All right. This should be it. Nope. How do I change what I'm sharing?
What do you mean?
It just keeps going back to my old settings somehow. Oh, well.
Turn it off and turn it back on? With the
No, it's just black. Well, all right. I can't get it to share my other screen right now for some reason. Oh, well. I have a nice picture of the Sage machine here in a museum somewhere, but I can't get it to show. Toggle screen sharing, but there's another share screen somewhere.
Yeah, there should be a share screen 1, share screen 2.
Where's that?
No, that was just toggle screen sharing.
Yeah.
What's black on one of your screens that it's showing? Is it showing one of your?
I have you on one screen and this picture on the other, and I don't want to bore people for any more. I'm going to try it one more time. No, that didn't do it. Nope. Oh well. All right. Now I can't share my screen anymore. That's all right.
In your Bob, in your early days, did you ever cross paths with Dr. Chuck Missler?
No.
Yeah, he was instrumental. He's a Annapolis graduate, and he was instrumental in the Pentagon for years, helping to develop some of the very first computers, and working on them. He worked for IBM for quite a while. So a dear brother, friend of mine, that been passed away for quite a while now, but yeah, he was involved with some of those early computers and anti-submarine warfare, and yeah, it was he's got some stories, let me tell you.
After I got out of college, I delivered furniture for a year because weren't hiring engineers, and I finally found my way into aerospace and got into anti-submarine warfare. That's interesting that you should bring that up. That was one of my careers, and that was interesting. I loved it. Yeah. Actually, it was very, very cool. I worked on the Navy Tactical Data System communications, and then anyway, it's a long story. I don't want to bore everybody with
that's one of the stories that Dr. Chuck talked about regularly was his relationship with he wrote all the books.
Yeah,
not Crichton,
not Tom Clancy. Tom Clancy?
Yes, Tom Clancy.
Yeah,
and he talked about how Clancy got in big trouble with the Department of Defense because of his book, The Hunt for Red October, because it was too on point.
It was
too on point. Yeah.
One ping and one ping only.
One ping
yeah.
and only.
So I never hung out in the. After I got out of high school and got out of went to college, that was the end of my IBMing. I mostly hung out. Well, I worked with the Control Data 6400 at my school, University of Arizona, and then from there, I ended up working with digital equipment, the PDP-11 and the VAX and all that for quite a long time. That's really where the mid-career area was, computer-wise. So
nice.
Neat stuff.
All right.
Oh, whoops! I hit that. Oh, you know what that sound is, right?
What's that?
Giveaway time.
It's giveaway time.
It's giveaway time. All right.
It's giveaway time. So let me get this guy up.
Break out the wheel.
Got to break out the giveaway
wheel.
Yeah, we have our own wheel of fortune on this show, Bob.
We do, and there it is.
Oh, look at that!
And there's the wheel. So tonight is the first Wednesday of the month. So every first Wednesday of the month until the end of the year, we'll be giving a $50 gift certificate away to Woodland Hills. So that being said, we have right now, as you can see on the screen, we have 33 entries right now just for this. And we've only been, this will be our second one. So it's been growing. I think the first one was only like 12 people. Now we're up to 33. So, you know, it's going to be really, really cool to keep on getting more people in here to take advantage
Seriously,
of these giveaways.
We're gonna get we need a bigger wheel because
I know we're gonna need a bigger wheel. And you know what? I'm gonna put this out to Sean Nielsen from Visible Dark out there. To Sean, we need a bigger wheel. So he's got to go find a bigger boat. Yeah, I tried to do that in my best Quint voice, but then it didn't work because I don't have that scratchiness.
Yeah, but, for sure, Bob. Your eyes keep going down because you know there are more and more people.
So we ready to play?
Go for it, man.
Absolutely.
Ready to play? All right, let's play. Here we go. Spin the wheel.
$50 Woodland Hills gift certificate. And it's
Frankie.
Frank Castanho. I hope I didn't butcher your last name. But congratulations to Frank. You'll be getting an email from myself and Woodland Hills congratulating you on the win. And you could use that for any purchase over at Woodland Hills. So congratulations to Frank.
Congrats, Frank.
Congratulations, Frank.
And there we go back. And let me get rid of this. And yeah, so that's that. So take a look at the website too to please sign up for all the future giveaways. Please do that. It's all free. It's not raffles. It's all free giveaways. And also, I got to throw a plug out for Sean Nielsen, who's a really good friend of the show, that Sean Nielsen is doing a giveaway as well for a set of the 3nm opto-long filters. So go take a look at that over at his Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, whatever else he's on. Go take a look at that and sign up for that giveaway. Because I'm telling you, I have these filters. Scott has these filters. They're awesome. They're really, really good. They did a really good job.
Are they the 36 or the two?
I'm not sure.
Inches?
I didn't read into the giveaway rules. But honestly, if you got an APS-C or smaller, you're going to be fine with whatever he has. So So hey, you know, whether it be 2-inch or 36mm. You know, and what's worse that could happen if it doesn't fit your camera sensor? Well, then you sell it and you buy the 2-inch for a fraction of the price. so you can get retail on
no matter what,
no
it's
problem.
A brand.
Yeah. So, and I'm just looking. Eric, do we have any other questions on there?
I was just checking, and doesn't look to be. No. Nope. Right. I think this was a great show.
Yeah,
Bob, I really appreciate you coming on. I learned a lot,
Me too.
You know, with ALPACA coming. So I'm looking forward to it. I really am looking forward to, you know, what the future holds for ALPACA because, as I say, me being an IT and network guy, it's going to be awesome.
Yeah, it's going to be great. You know,
well, I really
Bob, anything that you can send our way. Anything you can send our way in the way of like promotional stuff, you know, or, you know, website things that we can use to promote on the show, to talk about it, because this is long-term. This is long-reaching, long-term.
Yes. And as you said, as we talked about before, this has to be a grassroots thing. You know, we got to have our viewership and our members really getting out there and encouraging and really pushing the OEMs, you know, to say, hey, we want ALPACA. We want you guys to start supporting ASCOM ALPACA because we see the future of this. So
the app developers are actually the leaders on this. They're the people who, and the Han Klein and Patrick Chevali and Simulation Curriculum, Bill Toomey did Sky Safari, but they now own it, and Roz Rosalind Hardigan is the developer for them, but it's really Simulation Curriculum, the whole company. They're the people who are really leading the charge because they're providing the pull for the app, for the device developers to want to be able to talk with their apps. If somebody puts ALPACA into their focuser and nobody ever talks to it, then they've wasted their money. So that's the better way to think of it. And the other way to think of it is that every device on Windows and every application on Windows that speaks ALPACA today, that speaks ASCOM today, already speaks ALPACA. Already there by the middleware that we put in. And that, again, this is the type of thing that we would do, would be to provide tools that people can use to make that migration easier.
Okay. Well,
so it's the other platforms, the Linux and the Mac and so on and so forth that need to be pushed.
And there's not a lot of software out there. Really on Linux, it's Ecos, and that's it. And they have their own device interface standard, Indy, and that's not a universal interface. It's a way for you to declare what your device can do, and then the app can go out and query what kind of a device are you, what can you do, and then the app can build its capabilities around that. It's an interesting way of looking at it, but the strict contractual set of known ahead of time capabilities is what our thing is about, and Indy's more based on gentlemen's agreements of, well, if you're going to play in our area, you have to at least do these things. So it's just a difference in philosophy.
So is it more us also communicating out with those, you mentioned those other app developers, such as with SGP, APT, other PhD, what have you, those other developers who we are using, to really help them and encourage them to embrace ALPACA as well?
Well, here's the thing. All of those programs you mentioned run on Windows. They can already talk ALPACA.
You already said that. Yep. So you make that point.
That's the thing. There's nothing for them to do unless they want to get around having to use the dynamically created ASCOM drivers to make the transition from their ASCOM out to ALPACA. But that's quite workable, and it works just fine. So now the people out there making focusers, for example, can make a focuser with Wi-Fi, and any of that software on Windows can talk to it today.
Yep.
So it's not just the app developers; it's the whole thing of, the biggest threat are the people who want to create a closed environment.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, that just boils down to profiteering.
And it's
all about money.
It's not a very highly evolved way of thinking in business, and especially in the computer business, because that has never worked.
Yeah,
the IBM was the last company.
Just ask Beta.
Yeah, I mean, it has very little to do with
no kidding, right?
See, in our position, we like to be able to have options to be able to interchange different devices. Once again, knowing what the strengths and the weaknesses are of all the OEMs. So you're absolutely right. Having that closed system just doesn't help us out putting systems together. It's always good to have options.
Yeah.
Always good to have options.
And if you're a creative person and you're interested in doing something where you see a need from people like yourself, your gray hair comes from experiences, and you're like, and somebody sees your experiences and they say, hey, you know what? We can solve this problem in a very clever way. But before we try to do that, we've got to write interface software for 50 mounts, because we don't know what we're going to encounter out there. And how about the guy who brings his ancient mount out from his shack and wants to run that with your software, and you've never seen one before? Oh, no. Or the other guy who comes out with a new mount and is kind of like clueless, and, well, I have this great mount, and it has, Wiebel-Fetzer gears in it and stuff, and it really works great. Oh, well, can I talk to it? Well, we have our own REST API, a custom REST API, and you have to talk to that to talk to our telescope. Really? Nah, I won't. So anyway, there you have it.
And that's one thing I was saying, if we encourage these OEMs to not necessarily do something like that, but to start embracing, a more universal platform, an interface, I think it'll encourage a lot.
And it gives people, it makes it possible for people to do innovative things without a huge barrier to entry.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So true, Bob. So true.
That's
all right. I think
the universal translator.
Yeah.
It's nothing new. Layered software like this with industry standard interfaces goes back way before astronomy. So it's not some magic thing that I came up with. It's just applying best practices from the past to a new ecosystem.
Yeah, of
Exactly.
course. Somebody had to, when we were talking about languages, somebody had to throw in a Star Wars pun, and I've been going.
Yeah,
I've been going off on it for like 5 minutes. I'm sorry in the chat. Somebody threw out there. Yeah, that's all great, but doesn't speak Bocce. And, and I said, of course, it's like a second language to me.
I saw that. Nice. I honestly, I missed the Star Wars reference. I thought they were talking about the lawn game.
No.
Yes, bocce ball.
Yeah, no.
Yes.
And then of course I had to go off. I said, well, you know what I really need is a droid who understands some more binary language of moisture evaporators. So
we've crossed into geek now.
And whoever threw that out there just took the show off the rails. So
yeah,
we're going off the rails.
So I got to find out who wrote that. That was, of course, I can't find it now.
Turek says you need to make a fortune wheel with only his name on it.
Of course, it was Josh. Yeah, it was Josh Kovac. It was Josh who said the bocce. So. But yeah, I mean, listen, if I open up the Eagle one, it gets even smaller. I didn't update it yet.
Yeah.
I know there's only 21 on it, but it gets even smaller than that. The slices of the pie are like minuscule.
One thing you could do if you're an Eagle user is, I don't believe to this day that they offer a switch interface, a standard switch. They do have the ASCOM switch interface.
They have switches.
I had Yep. Good. Because the last time I talked to them, they were being very resistant to that. But
I believe it just came out with the last release. It's limited right now for certain things, but they're working on it.
If they had ALPACA switch interface, it would work with anything. That would be really cool, since they have built-in Wi-Fi, and that would actually be the right way to do it. It would be reachable from everything on Windows and all the other platforms, and then people would be able to control their power from a Raspberry Pi.
Yeah. So I literally have 2 Eagles sitting over here. For whatever reason, I was always a guy that was I don't want to be suckered down to just one distributor. I want to have a Moonlight focuser, and I want to have my S-Big camera. And
sounds good to me.
And I did that, but for whatever reason, I've been migrating slowly but surely in the Primaluce way. So now I have an Eagle, I have an Asado, I have an Arco. So I've been slowly moving this way.
Good for them.
What's that?
Good for them.
Yeah,
that's excellent. If they're delivering that quality, it's been a rough ride, but they have really stayed the course and done well. I think hats off to them.
Yeah, they've been done. And then I just put it together now. It's just I got my QHY 268 monochrome with 7-position filter wheel with everything's all set up, ready to go, but I got nothing to shoot because it's going to be cloudy and rainy until like probably August. So But yeah, I know it's just bad. I'm making it a lot worse than what it really is. But I mean, it's been a really and Eric will back me on this because he lived through it too. This has been an abnormally horrible winter for anywhere from the Midwest to the Northeast. It's just been so bad. I could probably count on two hands the amount of clear nights that we had since Thanksgiving. And it's been so bad. There's been little bits and pieces. Like if I had the scheduler where it would start at 2:00 in the morning and it'll open up my dome and all that, yeah, I would have gotten a ton more data. But my peer's outside, it's open to the air, it doesn't have a dome.
Yeah, that's a big
So
there you go.
That's as far as I could go in my backyard. I don't have a huge backyard, so my mount stays out there, but if it's not clear by midnight and I got to go to work the next day,
you're out of luck. Same
covering
here.
Up and going to bed.
Way. Yeah, that's pretty much.
Doug George, who's the president of Diffraction, of him. Douglas George, he's the president of Diffraction and SPIG.
Yep.
He told me many years ago, and by the way, he was the guy who got on to ASCOM immediately as soon as it got there. He totally got it right away and made it part of Maxim in 2003. He also put out a scriptable API for his own program at the same time, and I've made great use for that. Anyway, what he told me was a rule, kind of like, the rule of, what's the name of it? Not Kramer's rule, but with the computing that keeps going up. What's that rule? Somebody's law that every year the computing doubles and the RAM double. What is that? Anyway, his law is more money equals or is proportional to more data from your observatory per unit time. So the more money you can spend on it's not that you can do new things, but you can do more stuff in a given length of time. And I think that's pretty good. So in your case, you have a pier outside. If you'd spend more money and you could put it inside of a dome, you could get out more often. It's just, it kind of goes across everything. And I've never thought of it that way, but it's pretty, I have to credit him with a pretty good insight there.
And if I get my wish and we put the new fence and get rid of the damn forsythia bushes, I'll stick a roll-off roof right over there, and that's it. It'll look nice. It'll have like little flower pots, nice shed for the wife, but it'll be just, even if it just fits the one scope. I don't care. It doesn't have to be big. Just gotta fit it and just roll off. That's it. I'll make a little bench. You can sit down on it. A little shade. It'd be nice. Even if it's I don't care. I'll spend the money for like a telestation or, or whatever, something from PeerTech. I'll do that, but, that'd be nice to have.
Moore's Law. That's
my problem is that I'd wind up owning Hubble.
Oh, geez.
Nah.
Mr.
It's Moore's Law that I was thinking of. Somebody put it in the comments. Yep.
All right. Well, we're coming up on 2.5 hours.
Yep, I think we're good, man.
But,
wow.
This has been very interesting to me, too. I'm seeing a totally different side of astronomy by looking at the comments and listening to you and everything. Not totally different, but a part of the astronomy world that I don't normally get into. It's been very interesting and very useful, and I really had a great time.
Thank you.
And anytime you got something new and you want to come back on and share it with us, you're absolutely more than welcome. So
absolutely,
well, thank you.
Thank you so much for coming on and spending your Wednesday evening with us, and we really do appreciate it. I know all the viewers have just said literally right down the list, thank you. Great show, Bob. Awesome. So
that's cool.
So yeah.
All right.
So I guess so yeah. So just don't forget, next Wednesday, a week from tonight, we have Charles Bracken coming on. I know he was in the chats. He I guess left a little bit early, but he'll be on to come hang out with us and tell us what he's got coming up on the 13th. And then we got was it Peter Wright? Is that
no, Richard
Wright. Richard Wright from Starstone Software and Software Bisque. And then we have who's the last one? I'm trying to do this by memory. Eric Coles from TAIC, National Photographers from TAIC. So it's going to be an awesome next 4 or 5 weeks. And also we're starting to gear up for all the other giveaways. So take a look at the calendar that we have set up there. The big wheel of names. We got, and it looks like we're going to be adding on. I don't want to say because it's not solid yet, but a 5th giveaway is coming soon. So we got Woodland Hills, we got Camera Concepts, we got Prima Luce, and we got Masters of Pix Insight /IP for AP. So that's going to be really awesome, and thank you to all the sponsors that we have, and thank you again to all the member sponsors that we got. I think we're 35 now strong. I think member sponsors. So and just
keep
for those
growing.
Just so in case you guys, and I know this is going to be a shameless plug, and I don't care, but if you take a look at the chat on the bottom, you may see something new. There'll be a little smiley face and a little $sign on YouTube. And what those are super stickers and super chats. So if you like what we're doing and you want to throw a buck or two this way, and give us a little something so we can get more giveaway for you guys, feel free to buy a sticker for $2 or a smiley face for $3 or do a super chat, and you could, you'll be blasted on the YouTube page. So those have been activated. So that's kind of an interesting little thing. It's got a little characters and stuff, the little cute things. But
there you go.
Yeah. So
there you go.
And if you're so inclined to become a Patreon, you can go to Patreon too and become a patron for us as well for either, I think it's $3, $5, or $10 a month, and you get a nice shirt with. We finished the logo. They're coming. The shirt's coming. So you get a logo that says Red Giant sponsor. Oh, Bob, are you kidding me? Bob just sent us $50.
Oh my gosh.
Bob, you're out of your mind, but thank you so much, Bob. You're awesome.
Now everybody else is going to feel like,
I should have said this 2 hours and 38 minutes ago. I should have.
Wow. Thank you.
I'm gonna start throwing stuff around here, But thank you, Bob. Appreciate it. And listen,
really,
the one thing that I appreciate about this is that you guys appreciate, and the girls, guys and the girls, don't matter. Everybody who's involved in astronomy, astrophotography, that come and watch us, the 30 to 40. Dave Shaper just sent us $50.
Oh my gosh!
Wow.
See, it snowballs.
Holy cow! You guys,
there it is.
You guys are awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it, guys. Remember, this all goes back to you guys anyway. So thank you.
Yeah, really. So again, that just
come on. You guys are cheap. Where's the $100 one? Let me see.
God,
it.
Here you go. All right. So if you're gonna do $100 one, do it on Patreon, because they only take 11% as opposed to 30. But
oh god.
Hey, you know what? It really doesn't matter. It's free money for the group. It's free money for giveaways. It's free money to buy the shirts that we get for everybody. More stuff for more wheels. Absolutely, Bob.
Wheels.
More wheels of fortune. And hopefully maybe we can sit there and one of our goals when we were talking about doing these giveaways and getting these donations is it's a giveaway a decent scope. So
hey, you never know, man, because guess what was announced last night, or actually this morning?
What? I was working all day.
533 mm.
Get out.
The new it came out. It's been announced.
Is it still square?
It is.
It's square.
it is still square. It's still a 1-inch sensor, 1 by 1.
That's the only way that you're ever gonna fit a square peg in a round hole. That's the only way that is in the 533 camera.
Exactly. But no. So you never know. Hey, if people start doing this, you never know. It could get to a point where, we could get something like that and do a giveaway. Who knows? It's just an idea.
Listen, you know what? And if you're interested to do a raffle like we did for the camera, and speaking of which, I got to throw out a real quick shout out to Timothy Sessoms. Timothy Sessom was the winner of the Player One cam, and I haven't seen him in the chat recently. I'm going to try and find your email, Timothy, but you did win the Neptune cam for. Did he just dump out or? Oh no, he's okay. Nope. I thought you left us. Where'd he go? And Dennis just sent $10. I should have said this 3 hours ago. Thank you, everybody. You guys are awesome. Thank you for all donating. I say free scopes, and they start throwing us money. So, so hey, listen, bring it on. But you know what? Go to Patreon. We'll get there faster. but hey, thank you so much. That's $110 tonight. That's awesome.
$10. Yeah, that's good.
Hey, we keep doing that. We only need that for 10 more nights, 10 more shows. Somebody does that, you can get a nice camera, and we can do it at a raffle.
127 carbon fiber. Yeah, we're gonna need that for about 35 nights then. So
yeah.
Listen, thank you for the support from everybody. I can't say that it's very humbling. It really is.
It is. And it really is. But in all seriousness, I appreciate that. No, everybody here on the team appreciates that. We appreciate the support. And remember, like we always say, share the show. Sharing is caring. So just keep doing this, and hey, we are going to need to get bigger wheels. If you guys keep doing this type of stuff, and you guys share the show over all the platforms we're on, we are going to have to get bigger wheels. We have bigger giveaways.
There's only so many names I can fit. I don't have an 8K.
Yeah, no. Pretty soon, the names, it's going to be like these itty bitty tiny slivers on the wheel. It's like, how is the arrow going to be able to decide who's who?
Oh, that's not up to me. That's up to the programmers. I don't know. We'll talk to Bob to make us a bigger wheel.
I'm just trying to take a screenshot of this for me, and I did on my iPad. So that's why I was trying to go out of here. I was playing with my iPad.
No problem. Yeah, no, Josh, the wheel doesn't have a limit, but you're not even going to be able to read the names on the wheel. You're just going to have to.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You won't be able to read all the names.
You're just going to have to trust the computer that it picked one. So. All right.
Maybe.
Eventually, it's going to have to be something where it's just going to be this random thing. It's going to be like this. And it's going to just land on a name. It's going to go, little names are going to pop up, and that's it.
I'm just going to print up pieces of paper and pick one.
Boom. Yeah, it's going to pop up a name, something like that. I don't know.
Well, in Raffle Press, and one of the plugins for WordPress, it has you can pick a name automatically. It picks a name out of the list, but the wheel's funner. So
yeah, the wheel's a lot more.
Yeah,
it's more intense. You just go no whammies, no whammies, no whammies.
Yeah. John G wants to know if the wheel uses ALPACA.
Hey,
I should tell you where the name ALPACA came from.
Sure.
Who knows who Dave? Oh, now it's blanking out. Who's the guy that originally did the CCD cookbook? All right, I'm drawing. I cannot believe I can't think of his name. It's because I'm too damn old. CCD.
John Munger.
Not Dave Krieger.
Richard Berry.
Yes, that's him. Okay, so yes, there it is. Richard Berry and John Munger. They're both authors of it. Yes, you got it. So Richard Berry lives up in Oregon, and I was talking to him I don't know, a few years ago or something, and he was going on about the alpacas that he has as pets. Well, they're not exactly pets because he
Big pets.
has, he has them because he's got enough space for them. But if he has them there, then the county he lives in says that he has a ranch, and the property taxes are way down. And then if he didn't have those animals, they would kill him. He wouldn't be able to live there with the taxes. So, and I was kind of enchanted by the idea of having alpacas as pets. And I don't know why I was thinking about it. And I thought, oh, that's a perfect name for alpaca. So that's how that came about.
Nice.
And Richard Berry gets the credit.
Nice. All right.
Nice.
All right. Well, that about does it. I think we're coming close on the 3-hour mark, and it's coming. It's almost midnight in New York. So so everybody just start spreading the word about alpaca. Get it out there, and like everybody's been saying all night, it's a green roots thing. We got to start pushing for it if we want it to work out for everything. So
blow up cloudy nights with it.
yeah,
right.
And say, why is Bob Denny a vendor?
Right.
Well,
blow it up.
All right.
So I do a lot of outreach on cloudy nights.
Yeah.
And no advertising, but it is what it is, I guess.
Yeah, I hear you. All right, so everybody, I think that's about it for tonight. And Bob, I don't know if you noticed, if you want to stick around after the stream, you can. We talk for about 5 minutes just to recap, and once
I'll stick around for 5 minutes, but Stevie is in there with something for dinner, so I don't.
No, that's fine. That's fine. Yeah, no, this ran a little bit later than normally, but it was such a good conversation.
She's totally good with it. Believe me, she's amazing, actually.
And our members said, thank God Scott stayed awake for the whole 3 hours. So Scott usually is drooling on himself by
he's on a roll.
11:15.
He's on a roll.
So
I told you that move damn near killed me. I needed time to decompress.
All right. Well, you know what? We're gonna get out of here, guys. Everybody. Thank you again, Bob, for coming and hanging out with us for 3 hours. And as always, everybody have a good night and keep imaging, keep educating, and clear skies. And we'll see you on Friday night, 2 more days on AstroWorld Q&A. Have a good night, everybody.
Clear skies, everybody.